Hi, sorry, I am recording on my phone because my laptop is in my mom's car and she's at Walmart, and it's a whole thing. Being on vacation while doing this is very hard. Alright, I think it is so great that you are doing a lesson on appropriate communication. Specifically, you mentioned the ASCA goal of advocacy, because it is really a struggle getting students to advocate for themselves. Especially when students don't have a whole lot of practice talking to adults from or authority figures without being treated as kids. I know it is a struggle in secondary to get students to start seeing themselves as more mature, more adult, more grown up. And trust me, some of them aren't. But in elementary school, when they're walked to classes and they don't have real grades, because that's a thing in my district, and they're treated like kids, and then to be forced into middle school, high school, and practicing how to advocate themselves and communicate with adults in a more mature way, is a struggle for some students. So I like that you're talking about the advocacy part. And for students not just to advocate for themselves, but to advocate for other students. I had an incident this school year where I had a good kid, except for when he was around his friend, and his friend got in trouble, sent to ISS for bullying. And I was told the kid, I was like, look, you're a witness. You saw your friend doing this. Like, it's up to you. Like, I can't make you say anything when the principal calls you in as a witness, but you were there, and it's your choice to say something or not. But what type of person do you want to be in 30 years? Like, now's a really good time to start being that person and advocating for other people, not just for yourself. So it is hard at this age because they still feel like their life is like their children, and that they have no consequences, and or any of their consequences don't affect their real world decisions after after high school. So I think advocacy is such an important topic for you to do a lesson on. I like that you're doing a communication skills checklist, just to be like, they can reflect on their own skills. Like, do I already have this? Do I even know what this is? I think having that available to them during the lesson and after the lesson and just in their regular life is amazing. I like that you have both role play scenarios and what if sheets, especially for students who already struggle with communication and maybe are shy or have anxiety or something. That does make them nervous about communication, especially I know I have students who on their IEP says I forgot the exact wording, but basically they can't, they're not going to read aloud. You can't make them read aloud or talk in front of the class. And so having what if sheets, so they still get some sort of practice, and what would they do in this scenario, some sort of practice figuring out their own communication style, I think is great. I also like that you were talking about small group support and one-on-one support, and then also finding, supportive adults. That is the word. Sorry, I wrote it down, but it looked like an A. Finding a supportive adult to communicate with. I like that your icebreaker is a no talking icebreaker, so that way students can see real life. Hey, not talking, not learning how to communicate does make your life harder. I think that talking about assertiveness is a big deal, because I personally know I've never been taught the difference between assertiveness and being rude. And I know there is a difference, just, after, becoming an adult and seeing the real world. But growing up, it was always very, I have one aunt who is very assertive and sets boundaries, and sometimes she does say it rudely. However, just the thought of her setting boundaries was so taboo for my family that it was always seen as rude. And so I like that you're showing them how or what assertiveness can look like without being rude or mean. I like that you mentioned talking about nonverbal communication as well. talking about I statements, and giving sentence stems if they need it, if they are struggling with communication. Because this might be the first time they're really having to like learn communication skills, and so they might not have those readily available. If this were like their third or fourth lesson on communication skills, that would be different. But I think sentence stems are great for that first exposure to communication. And then I think it's a great lesson. I totally am with you on the where, with as far as barriers go, like where does this fit in? How can I pull students for classes that are this long? Because it's going to take like probably a whole period, at least 45 minutes, if not more. So yeah, I completely understand the barriers. I think you did a great job.